everyone! Welcome to Social Studies with Ms. Rogers, World History Edition. We left off last class talking about competitions for power between three groups of people, the nobility, monarchs, and the church. We saw two examples of this, like the English Magna Carta, that not only listed specific rights for the nobility, but also recognized that the king is not above the law. We also saw the Great Schism, which seriously weakened the power of the church. Today, we continue with power grabs in the Middle Ages by focusing on the Crusades, which acted as a competition for power between social classes, different nations, denominations of Christianity, and even religions as a whole. So, let's get started. As both a background to the Crusades and also to show you what's going on with another part of the world during the Middle Ages, I want to give you a sneak peek of the Islamic world in the Middle East at this time in history. We learned about Islam last unit, and I know we mentioned how Islam was created a long time after the other two Abrahamic religions, Judaism and Christianity, and I'm going to give you that visual and put the establishment of Islam on our timeline right here. Now, historians don't have an exact date for the beginning of Islam, but historians generally say the 7th century. We also talked about how the Sunnis and the Shias were major splits in Islam, and we're going to put that split on our timeline as well. Since the establishment of Islam, the Islamic world really grew, and we knew this already because when we talked about Africa, we saw Islam spread very quickly and very far, and we also mentioned it when we talked about the Byzantine Empire, how the Byzantines lost a lot of land to the Umayyad dynasty. The Umayyad dynasty was actually the 7th largest empire in all of history, and was created by the caliph named Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. The word caliph originally meant successor of Muhammad, but it would evolve into a more king-like title. Muawiyah was considered an amazing leader, and one of his more famous quotes was, "I never use my sword when my whip will do, nor my whip when my tongue will do." Over time, the Umayyad dynasty seemed to show favoritism towards Arab Muslims over European and African Muslims. When the Abbasids took over the Umayyads, they were much more welcoming to not only non-Arab Muslims, but all foreigners in general. The Abbasid Empire over time acted more like a bunch of fragmented kingdoms, and a part of those kingdoms were the Seljuk Turks. The Byzantine Emperor Alexius I really starts to get nervous that the Islamic Empire is expanding so much, and when the Seljuk Turks come to power over Jerusalem, they make it pretty difficult for Christians to come visit the Holy Land, and Alexius will not stand for this. Alexius sends word to the Pope in Rome asking for some assistance. "Hey, friend, do you want to come assist me? I mean, we're all still Christians, maybe different kinds of Christians, but we gotta help each other out, right?" And the Pope in Rome decides this will be a great opportunity, and this starts the Crusades, this journey to reclaim the Holy Land of Jerusalem in the name of Christianity. He addresses his people with a big speech, and there are so many versions of this speech that differ slightly, but this is the one that I'll repeat for you so that you can actually see why anyone would want to sign up for this in the first place. "I, or rather the Lord, beseech you as Christ's herald to publish this everywhere and to purse all people of whatever rank, foot soldiers and knights, poor and rich, to carry aid promptly to those Christians and to destroy that vile race from the lands of our friends. I say this to those who are present. It is meant also for those who are absent. Moreover, Christ commands it." What he's pretty much saying here is, hey, doesn't matter what social class you belong to, this message is from Christ himself, so you better listen. Jesus says you need to help out fellow Christians and save them from the non-believer Muslims. All who die, by the way, whether by land or by sea or in battle against the pagans, shall have immediate remission of sins. This I grant them through the power of God which I am invested. Oh, what a disgrace if such a despised and base race, which worships demons, should conquer a people which has the faith of omnipotent God and is made glorious with the name of Christ. And now what he's saying here is, Anyone who dies on the crusade immediately goes to heaven. I am personally giving you a free ticket to heaven. And you might as well take me up on it, or the demon worshippers will taint our holy land. Which we literally just learned a while ago that the Islamic religion and the Christian religion worship the same God, so there's that. Now, the Pope for sure played this off publicly as, hey, we need to save the Holy Land from the Muslims. But there were definitely ulterior motives here. For instance, much of the nobility within Europe was fighting each other, whether it be through land fights or even just jousting each other into serious injuries. And this was a good opportunity to get them to cut it out and focus on a common enemy. And while focusing on that common enemy, gaining some land for Christian territories wouldn't be a terrible move, and neither would stealing goods from a land they know is super wealthy, because remember, the Middle East is having a golden age. And I'm not even commenting on whether it's good or bad, I'm just saying this is the Pope's mindset. Now, the people who sign up for the crusade have a very different mindset. You have to put yourself in their shoes for a moment. They wholeheartedly believe every single word the Pope is saying. Whether you agree with them or not, this is just as real to them as the air they breathe. The biggest ticket here is the Pope is guaranteeing success. He says Christ commands this, meaning it is guaranteed we will be successful. Either we will win and you will survive and you will be rewarded with riches beyond your imagination, or you will die in the process, which is fine because I guarantee you go straight to heaven. That sounds like a pretty good deal to these people. The people who this is really going to speak to is not the super rich people, because they already have all of the riches they need. Why go risk their lives for more? This is going to speak to peasants, even serfs, lower class knights, lower class nobles who don't have as much. This is their ticket to a better life, and to them, they're doing a good thing. They genuinely believe this is a just and noble cause because the Pope says it is. He says that Jesus himself wants this to happen. The first crusade started with the People's Crusade, when a guy named Peter the Hermit, nice name bruh, marched through the Rhineland, which is modern-day Germany, killing several thousand Jews, calling them Christ killers. Not so fun fact. There's a really unfortunate myth that the Jewish people killed Jesus Christ, and that is not a real thing. It was 100% the Romans, as we already talked about in our class last unit. And the People's Crusade gets to the Holy Land, and when I say people, I mean regular old Joe Schmoes just chugging on down, and they get slaughtered by the Muslims. And the Pope says, oh dear, that is not what we wanted to let happen. Let me do a little bit of organizing real quick. Boom! And he puts together a real army for the real First Crusade, and it exceeds everybody's expectations. They actually take over Jerusalem, and they actually fulfill their quest. But here's the thing. When the Crusaders come, Jerusalem is still under control of Islamic kingdoms, but the Egyptians actually take it from the Turks. The Turks are Sunni, the Egyptians are Shia, so the Turks would not come help the Egyptians. To the Islamic world, the First Crusade was lost because they refused to work together and help each other. To the Christian world, the First Crusade was won because God was leading them in the right direction. Another thing. The Crusaders supposedly conquered this land for the Byzantines. However, instead of this land going to the Byzantine Empire, the Pope says, ooh, this land is nice, and they keep it under the Catholic Church and call it Crusader kingdoms. The Second Crusade I'm sure matters to someone, but not this class. The Third Crusade was pushed when the Kurd Salah ad-Din, or Saladin as he's usually referred to in the West, came to power and took Jerusalem. 3 big players in Europe answered the call to this crusade, and when I say big players, I mean 3 kings. We have Philip II of France, Richard the Lionheart of England, and Frederick, who was the Holy Roman Emperor at the time, and think medieval Germany. So they're on their journey, and Frederick along the way decides he wants to take a bath, but I guess no one taught him how to swim, and he drowns in the river that he's trying to bathe in. Richard and Salah ad-Din were very similar in that they were fabulous generals who really earned the respect of their men. Such amazing generals, they could not defeat one another. To be honest, Richard just needed to hold out a few more years before Salah ad-Din passed, but alas, he did not. Richard and Salah ad-Din actually created a treaty saying that Jerusalem could stay under Islamic control, but Christians are guaranteed safe passage, as long as they don't have weapons on them. But the Pope said, nah, I'm just not feeling it. It's not enough. So on with more crusades! The most facepalm-worthy crusade would probably be the fourth one. 35,000 people signed up for this crusade, which is a lot, and they prepared for 35,000 people. And 11,000 showed up, because I guess they're as flaky as your high school friends. The Byzantine almost emperor, Alexius III, asks the Crusaders to help him manage a rebellious city in the meantime. And the Crusaders were like, you want us to attack a European Christian city? Okay, sounds good, money's money. But the Pope was pissed. The Crusaders were waiting around in Constantinople for Alexius to pay them, but Alexius was overthrown and the new emperor didn't want to pay them, so the Crusaders attacked Constantinople to take what they thought was theirs, their payment. They stole goods, they killed people, they raped people, they never actually even made it to the Holy Land. And what the Fourth Crusade did was clarify that the Crusades didn't have to be about pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Any enemy of the Catholic Church counted, and that even included the Eastern Orthodox Church that they just attacked. And the Byzantine Empire would never recover from this, and they officially will fall in 1453 to the Muslim Turks. Another example of a crusade I want to mention is the Children's Crusade, but it's also worth mentioning historians can't determine if this really happened or not. And on top of that, there's a few different accounts of what happened, or what might have happened. One of the theories is that people of Europe were so convinced that the Crusades were God's will, they sent their children willingly to convert the Muslims to Christianity. But most of the kids never even made it to the Holy Land. They either died of starvation, or were captured and sold into slavery, or were butchered along the way, and if any did make it to the Holy Land, they were surely killed. But again, historians aren't sure if this really happened or if it was made up. In total, we will have 8 or 9 crusades. Some will be successful, some will not, but overall, Europe just did not do anything other than completely kill off the Byzantine Empire. In the end, the Holy Land stays under Muslim control, and that's why I call the Crusades a colossal waste of time. Overall, for a religious expedition, the Crusades were a violation of the "thou shalt not kill" clause from the Bible. It was also a huge example of abuse of church power. The failure of the Crusades is really going to hit the church hard. And when you look at the bitterness that this event created between the religious groups involved, you can see that this kind of tension is still around today. Other effects of the Crusades include stimulating trade between the East and the West, and more competition for power in Europe between our nobles, our monarchs, and the church. Obviously, when this hurts the church, the kings are going to reach for some of that power. In addition, many nobles who go on the Crusades leave their land to the church in their wills, and a lot of them don't come back. While other nobles who don't come back have their land reabsorbed by the kings who gifted it to them in the first place. So in the end, the nobles' losses is literally the king and the church's gain. We will also see our feudal system struggling. A lot of people who died were knights. A lot of people who died were peasants. And when I say a lot of people, I mean 4 to 10% of Europe's population is dead just from the Crusades. That's a lot of people. And so the manorial system is struggling a little bit. Remember the system where the lord owns the land and the peasants and serfs work on it and the knights protect it, in that circular system? Yeah, it's struggling. We're going to continue this struggle tomorrow as we conclude our Middle Ages content. So I'll see you guys then.